So continuing on along with my reviews of Dulce related material, this is the Dulce Wars, and I'll try to keep this short and sweet. The Dulce Wars was published around 1999, and this is a classic example of just straight up fringe literature. There's a lot of this book is just cut and pasted out of websites and other sources and all cobbled together to form this book. But there is some good material in it. If you're a Dulce base purist and you really want to run down as much as you can, this is definitely worth having, and I'll get into why here in just a minute. But real important to understand, this is one of those things that needs to be seen for what it is. I believe this is a piece of the larger puzzle, and I think this is definitely a good example of poisoning the well, where you can't stop the flow of information out of a leak in a particular source. So instead of stopping the flow, instead of stopping the well, as it were, you poison the well with false information. And you make it so there's good information and bad information, but there's so much bad information too that the reputable journalists and researchers give up and say, I don't have time to sift through all this, and I don't want to risk being poisoned, so they go away. And you're left with this poisonous mess that only the very, very patient and dedicated are willing to sort through. And the not so patient and not so dedicated and not so discerning will take the poison and the non-poison, mix them together, and have this strange cobbled together ideological mess that they come away with. So that's important to remember, especially anytime you're looking into Paul Benowitz and the surrounding scandal with him and AFOSI, is you have a guy who legitimately stumbled onto classified programs and classified information. And because he couldn't be shut up, because he was an honest guy and he was talking to people and he couldn't be shut up that way, they decided to just pump him full of disinformation, and hence the poisoning the well. Paul was indeed the well, and the poison was the false information. And real important to be aware of that tactic when you read through this kind of information, because a lot of this really needs to be run through a strainer and carefully picked apart and seen for what it is. Anytime you see Commander X credited, you're in for a wild ride. So if you just want to read some crazy fiction and go away paranoid, look no further than Commander X. So, who I highly doubt held any kind of commissioned rank in the military. But moving right along, the reason I wanted to go back to this for the sake of a review is in chapter 1, an article is quoted from TC Technical Consultant, which the November-December issue of 1991. And that is, from what I can tell, this was a trade publication for technical consultants, obviously, for computer consultants and that sort of thing. And this was a fairly reputable publication, as far as I can tell, that wrote some articles about trends in the tech industry and things like that. Well, they had written an article about Wackenhut and the Wackenhut Security Company and its involvement with Area 51 and other classified programs, and the Cabazon tribe out in California, which was most likely being used as cover for weapons testing and weapons programs, since tribal land falls under this weird umbrella, this legal umbrella of being sovereign territory. So there are things that you can do on tribal land that you can't do 20 feet away off of tribal land. So like certain arms treaties and things like that can be gotten around by doing those things on tribal land. And that is what Wackenhut was suspected of doing, along with other aerospace and weapons manufacturers. So I find it interesting, though, this article from Technical Consultant, TC Technical Consultant, November-December 1991 issue. I've seen this same issue cited elsewhere about some of the information about Danny Casolaro and about Wackenhut and about the a lot of strange goings on with Area 51. And this particular article goes into some speculation about there being some warring factions within the intelligence community over some of the secret activities and secret weapons testing and things like that that were happening in places like Area 51, the Cabazon tribe. And the author here, and this is why I thought this was interesting, the author here also believes that it was connected to Dulce, New Mexico. And he mentions in the story, and which they print pretty much word for word from the magazine here, that he called up the tribal headquarters or the someone there in Dulce and just played like he was in the know and asked about what kind of biological weapons programs were being done in conjunction with the tribe, with the tribal authority there in Dulce, New Mexico. And he claims that the woman that he talked to got very scared and concerned, and he shouldn't be talking about that, and cut the conversation short. Long and short of it is, articles like that really make me wonder if there is something more to the whole story of there really being some kind of biological, chemical warfare testing base or whatever in Dulce, New Mexico. Also, and I'm going to put this out as a challenge to the very limited public that I'm reaching with this, but so a few times I've run across this article now. This is I ran across it a few years ago, and I did this, and I did it again the other night when I found this. TC, Technical Consulting Journal or Technical Consulting Magazine. I can find no trace of this magazine. I've seen this quoted. If you search this, you will find this article probably online. If you do a Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever kind of search, you'll probably find some iteration of this article when you do that search. But I have yet to find, either through eBay or Amazon or any other search engine, I have yet to find back issues or anything about Technical Consulting Magazine, any issues. And I find that very strange, that this entire trade publication seems to have been wiped from existence. If anyone out there has any information on that, I'd love to hear it, because that is really a mystical to me, because I've seen some videos where people are literally holding a copy of it, talking about it, but yet I have not seen it. And I'm going to do this weekend, I'm going to see if I can do some checking at the local library and see if they have any information on that in their periodical section. But I'd be really curious if any of you all have ever stumbled across that, or anybody has better search capabilities than I do, or more web savvy searches. But anyway, it's TC Technical Consulting, November-December 1991 issue. But I found that really interesting and a very odd corroboration of some of the Dulce mythos that was, shoehorned into this book. So anyway, Dulce Wars from 1999. By far not the best book out there, but there is some good information. Again, it's one of those that I've got dog-eared in a few places where I found some little nuggets of wisdom. But again, this should be seen in the context of being a piece of a larger puzzle, and by no means an answer to the entire riddle. So anyway, Dulce Wars by Branton and Commander X.